ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलम् श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातम् सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौतुषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विषमानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरोर्भ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नाना शास्त्र विचारनैकनिपुणो सद्धर्म संस्थापको लोकानां हितकारिणो त्रिभुवने मान्यो शरण्यागरो राधा कृष्ण पदारविंद भजना नंदे नमत्तालिको वंदे रूप सनातनो रघुयुगो श्रीजीव गोपालको। Yesterday we discussed about the eligibility to enter into Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. It is said someone who is greatly fortunate having come into the association of a pure devotee of Krishna may develop attraction towards Krishna, mm, and have developed faith in the service of Lord Krishna. That person is neither too attached nor too detached. Such a person becomes qualified to practice Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Therefore, we try to understand in this chapter that what attachments that person should not have. That person should not be attached to material sense gratification in um, huge amounts or great quantity. That person may be little attached to sense gratification. Similarly, that person should not be attached to the uh, goal of attaining liberation. That is also not favorable attitude. We discussed about three kinds of adhikaris: madhyam adhikari, sorry, uttam adhikari, madhyam adhikari, kanishta adhikari. And then we also discussed how in when someone is entering into pure devotional service practice, one doesn't need too much of knowledge or faith or renunciation, but to make progress in pure devotional service, one has to cultivate knowledge, faith, renunciation. One should become free from the bodily concept of life to enter into pure devotional service. But When one becomes free from the bodily concept of life, one may also become attached to the satisfaction that comes to the false ego by becoming free from bodily concept of life. Right. So, a very important lesson for people on the path of pure devotion service is that don't ever think that at any stage till you attain the stage of prema, you can relax, thinking, oh, I am done with the obstacles. There are going to be no more obstacles. You can't think like that. You know, if you are a newcomer, there are going to be obstacles. If you have been practicing for 10 years, still there are going to be obstacles. If you have been practicing for 30 years, still there are going to be obstacles. Only if someone has come to the stage of prema, then one can say, now I am free from obstacles. Mm. But in any intermediate stage, there are obstacles pertaining to that stage. And therefore, those who are on the path of pure devotional service, they are very, very careful about everything they do, right? Like, just let's have a small discussion. What is the concept of attachment to liberation? Mukti Kamna. What is it? What is Mukti Kamna?
That getting freed from the material difficulties, problems.
Very good. Yes. So that is the most fundamental understanding of Mukti Kamna. What is that? You want to get rid of problems in life. You want to get rid of whether it is physical problem, it is mental problem, it is relationship problem, it is a problem of existence. You want to get rid of all the problems. Mhm. Because those problems, they are hindrance to our sense gratification, right? Mhm. So Mukti Kamana basically means that as someone is moving ahead in Krishna consciousness, that person naturally would want to become free from the bodily concept of life. Because the more we remain in bodily concept of life, it becomes difficult to serve Krishna properly, isn't it? Like, for example, all of us know getting up early, very early in the morning and chanting Hare Krishna is best for my spiritual life. All of us know that. But we struggle to get up early in the morning. Why? One may say, because I rested very late at night, my health is not good, all that. But what is the main reason why we are not able to do what we want to do? Because of bodily concept of life. I am being uh, I am being stopped by my body, you know. My body is not allowing me, isn't it? The body is creating some kind of hindrance. Hmm. That hindrance may be physical or that hindrance may be mental. Like, for example, you may have a very healthy body, but then you have a mental sickness. What is that mental sickness? If I get up early in the morning, I'll get sick. I'll become unhealthy. You know, so this is a mental obstacle. Mm. So when we are in bodily concept of life, we realize that we cannot perform devotional service nicely. Body needs rest, body needs food, body needs water, and body needs to go to the toilet, isn't it? The body needs AC in summer, the body needs heater in winter. Huh? The body needs so many things. So we understand that body is creating a lot of difficulty. Hmm. I want to sit and read Srimad Bhagavatam for 5, 6 hours, but every 2 hours the body is saying, now you need to drink some water, now you need to drink some tea, now you need to eat some snack. Right? So one realizes that bodily concept of life is not very nice. But then, if you become free from bodily concept of life, there is some ananda that is experienced by a person who is free from bodily concept of life, right? And when that ananda comes, uh, one may become attached to that happiness. I am now free from bodily concept. that happiness will then become an obstacle to practice pure devotional service. Because I became attached to it. Like, I'll give an example. Yesterday, we were speaking to the devotees in the Hindi batch. Let's say I have a bicycle, and every day I have to commute the from my house to the temple in a bicycle. Fine. Hmm? The journey on a bicycle is not very comfortable. Uh, So now I think, or I pray to Krishna, Krishna, having a bicycle is not very congenial for my devotional service. I want a more comfortable conveyance from my house to the temple. So please give me a BMW car. So then I get a BMW car. Now I thought that having a BMW will help me get rid of my problem, which I'm getting when I'm riding the bicycle. Right. So when I'm away from those problems, then I can serve Krishna better. But when I get the BMW car, as soon as I sit in the car, I feel, oh, it is so comfortable. It is so nice. Let us just put on the AC and sleep for some time. So what has happened? I became attached to the happiness of sitting in a BMW car. Now that happiness is now an obstacle to pure devotional service. You are understanding? That happiness is an obstacle, isn't it? That happiness is taking away my happiness of experiencing the pleasure of serving Krishna. Isn't it? The happiness of sense gratification takes away the opportunity to feel the happiness of serving Krishna. The happiness of liberation takes away the opportunity to experience the happiness of pleasing Krishna.
But Prabhuji, if the devotee is determined, he may feel happy sitting in the car. The driver is driving now. I can chant in the car also. Like that way, there may be cases where he can increase his devotion also. No.
Who said it is not possible? It is possible. But the problem is that obstacle is also there. If you think that obstacle will not be there and you can easily cross over that obstacle, it's not necessarily true.
Yes, that is good. If you get attached, as you said, if you get attached to the happiness, then it is
Yeah.
gone.
So then, let's say you got a car and now you're very happily riding in the car and going to temple to serve Krishna. Now, let's say after 2 days, Krishna takes away the car and Krishna says, now go back to the bicycle. So
No.
at that moment, if you are really attached to the car or not, that will be tested, isn't it? Hmm. So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami is cautioning a practitioner at every step. At every step, whether you are at the stage of Shraddha, or you are at the stage of Sadhu Sangha, or you are at the stage of Bhajana Kriya, or you are at the stage of Anartha Nivriti, or at the stage of Nishtha, at the stage of Ruchi, at the stage of Asakti, at any stage, there are going to be obstacles. There is going to be uh, a knocking on the door by material sense gratification and liberation. And a person who is practicing pure devotional service has to be cautious that I should not open the door and let them come in. No. So, this is very important. Sometimes um, we as practitioners in our society is called, we become very callous and we start thinking everything is fine in my Krishna consciousness. Everything is okay. Everything is going on well. No. But that callousness is very risky. How it is risky? A farmer who does not visit the agricultural field every day will not have healthy crops. Why? Because the farmer has to go every day and see that some crows are not destroying the crops, some animals are not destroying the crops, the fence is not broken, some unnecessary weeds have not grown. If the farmer thinks I'll go to the field 6 months, once in 6 months, and then see everything and come back home, no, in 6 months, things may be very much destroyed. Similarly, a sincere sadhaka has to every day visit his or her Krishna consciousness and check, am I still on the path of practicing pure devotional service or not? That is the purpose of sitting in a class. That is the purpose of reading the scriptures given by acharyas. That is the purpose of going to dham. That is the purpose of doing sadhu sangha. To help us to check whether I am still practicing pure devotional service. Right. I mean, that is the reason of being a Gaudiya Vaishnava. A Gaudiya Vaishnava means someone who is a follower of Srila Rupa and Sri Raghunatha. Rupa Raghunatha Bode Koibe Akuti. So, what are these personalities teaching? These personalities are teaching pure devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. Isn't it? Now, that is the reason when we study ahead, a point will come. A devotee should not read too many books. Why it is mentioned? It is mentioned because the goal is very clear, the path is very clear. The instructions are also very clear. A sadhaka has to just stick to that goal, that path, and those instructions, and not read too many books or hear too many instructions, and be very clear that this is where I am progressing or marching. So Rupa Goswami is again and again telling the desire for enjoyment, the desire for perfection, the desire for liberation, these may come up. And a pure devotee, he or she rejects those opportunities at every step. And that person marches on, moves ahead, right? So here it is explained, what do you call, some verses, Rupa Goswami is telling us how a devotee rejects the prospects of liberation. A devotee is not interested in liberation. Mhm. And therefore, these prayers are there, these verses are there. We also read some verses yesterday, like the prayer given in Shikshashtakam. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patita ma vishme bhamam budo kripaya tava pada pankaja sthita dhuli sadrisham vichintaya न धनम न जनम न सुंदरिम कविता वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात् भक्ति रहे तुकी त्वयि. So this is a prayer. I don't want bhukti, I don't want mukti. I only want devotional service. Mm. And I want to become a speck of dust at your lotus feet. Right? So now so many verses will be quoted by Rupa Goswami from different places, Srimad Bhagavatam and other places, to tell how devotees they don't accept the prospects of liberation. So these verses are, now you may think, why Rupa Goswami is giving so many verses? Why is Rupa Goswami is giving so many verses? He could have just given one verse, no? In chapter 4 is all about different verses quoted by Rupa Goswami. When we read
Because
all are different verses.
we all have different levels of faith. So, in order to convince us that to drive home the point decisively, he is giving us so many verses.
Verses. So many verses is giving why? Because as Mataji said, one is that. Second is he wants to tell that this is not an opinion of just one person. It's the opinion of everyone who is on the path of pure devotional service. Right? It is the opinion of Uddhava. It is the opinion of Prahlada. It is the opinion of Kunti. It is the opinion of Shukdev Goswami. It is the opinion of great personalities, all great personalities. So he's giving pramana. That pramana is to make that faith strong in our heart. That yes, I should desire for devotional service free from the motives of bhukti and mukti, sense gratification and liberation. Right? That's why so many verses are quoted from different places to drive home his point that pure devotional service is free from these desires. Right? Mhm. A devotee never desired liberation. So these verses are given. Um, let's start the reading of chapter 4. Devotional service surpasses all liberation. At the beginning of this chapter, Srila Prabhupada will clearly describe the theme of this chapter. Hmm. The theme is made very clear that a pure devotee or a person practicing pure devotional service, he doesn't want to merge into the Supreme Lord, doesn't want that happiness of merging into the Supreme Lord. Fine. And if one has that desire, that person cannot enter into the realm of pure devotional service. That is very, very important. Very important. Okay, let's read. How much a devotee is seriously attached to the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood from the statement of Maharaj Prithu. So first he is coming from Prithu Maharaj, quoting from Prithu Maharaj, right? Uh, Adi Raja, which is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 20th chapter, verse 24. He prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead thus, My dear Lord, if after taking liberation, if after taking liberation, I have no chance of, hmm, I have no chance of hearing the glories of your Lordship. I have gotten liberation, but I don't have any chance then to hear of the glories of your Lordship. Glories chanted by pure devotees from the core of their hearts in praise of your lotus feet. And if I have no chance for this honey of transcendental bliss, then I shall never ask for liberation or this so called spiritual emancipation. I shall simply always pray unto your Lordship that you may give me millions of tongues and millions of ears so that I can constantly chant and hear of your transcendental progress. So, what happens in liberation? What is the problem with liberation?
When we merge with the Brahman, there is no further activity. So no
Yeah,
glories and no.
very good. So, when someone wants to merge into um, the happiness of being one with the Supreme Lord, then there are no developed senses to hear about the Lord or talk about the Lord, right? There are no activities. So then that pleasure of serving the Lord is not there. And therefore he's saying, I don't want that. I don't desire that. Mhm. I don't want. So here the lesson is what? One should be very eager to hear the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, the glories of the Supreme Lord, when described by the pure devotees of the Supreme Lord. Should be very eager to hear, not seek the happiness that comes from liberation. I remember once it was Juhu temple. Maybe, and I mean, this is long time back. I think 10 years ago, something like that. 10 years or maybe more. 11 years ago. So His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj had come to give a class in the Juhu temple, Radhanath Peri temple. There was some festival going on, some occasion was there. So thing going on, um, many senior members of the movement had come there to participate in the meeting. And they were all very busy. But then, though the schedule was so tight and everyone had so many things to do, I remember His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj was also present there. And we all know that Maharaj always had heavy loads of duties to perform in the service of Srila Prabhupada. So, still, when he came to know that His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj is going to give the class, he came all the way down from his room and then he sat behind in one corner to hear the class. People were sitting in the front, so there was no space. So he personally came and told Maharaj, Maharaj, I'm sitting at the back and listening to your class. And he sat back and listened to the class or heard the class. Mhm. So, demonstrating by personal example that wherever there is Harikatha, Krishna's glorification, done by pure devotees of Krishna, one should be very eager to be present there and hear that Katha. That gives one great happiness. Right? So, pure devotees of Krishna will not seek happiness of material sense gratification, material comfort, or even liberation. If they're getting a chance to hear from pure devotee, they'll immediately jump on that chance. Mhm. Immediately jump on that chance, right? Not become lazy. But in Vrindavan, I was with His Holiness Bhakti-sastri Swami Maharaj, again maybe 10 years ago, 9 years ago. And His Holiness Radha Govind Maharaj was giving katha in the Krishna hall in Krishna Balaram temple. Maharaj speaks in Hindi. And this is the time when Maharaj was physically not well. So he was also not speaking in a very fluent manner. Still, His Holiness Bhakti Damodar Maharaj said, I want to go and listen to the Katha. He does not understand Hindi. Still, I want to go and listen to the Katha. No. Then I went and I was translating for him, whatever Maharaj was saying. So, those who are practicing pure devotional service, they will be always very eager to hear about Krishna. The eagerness will be there. As Prithu Maharaj is saying here, I don't want liberation. I want to sit and hear the glories of your Supreme Lord. Right? Next point. Uh, Ashokaneja approach.
Hare Krishna. The impersonalists desire to merge into the existence of the Supreme, but without keeping their individuality, they have no chance of hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. Because they have no idea of the transcendental form of the Supreme Lord, there is no chance of their chanting and hearing of his transcendental activities. In other words, unless one is already beyond liberation, one cannot relish the transcendental glories of the Lord, nor can one understand the transcendental form of the Lord. A similar statement is found in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 14th chapter, verse 44. Sukadeva Goswami addresses Parikshit Maharaj there and says, the great soul King Bharat was so much attached to the service of the lotus feet of Krishna that he very easily gave up his lordship over the earthly planet and his affection for his children, society, friends, royal opulence, and beautiful wife. He was so very lucky that the goddess of fortune was pleased to offer him all kinds of material concessions but he never accepted any of these material opulences. Sukadev Goswami praises this behavior of King Bharat very highly. He says, any person whose heart is attracted by the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Madhusudana, does not care even for that liberation which is aspired to by many great sages, but to speak of material opulences.
Thank you. So here again it is mentioned in this verse. What did Bharat Maharaj give up?
Virtually everything.
Yeah, but exactly which category he is addressing here? Bhukti or Mukti?
Bhukti.
Bhukti, right? Material sense enjoyment. He gave up all the prospects for material sense enjoyment. And he could easily give them up. Why? Because of his attachment for the Supreme Lord, for devotional service. Mm. He was so lucky that the goddess of fortune was pleased to offer him all kinds of material concessions, but he never accepted any of these material opulences. He never accepted. It came on his way, but he did not accept. So this is important for us to know that such opportunities will knock on the door of our life, after we have taken to Krishna consciousness, practice of pure devotional service. But we'll have to say no to such opportunities. You can't just accept those opportunities. That fine. I'm giving a chance of sense gratification, let me accept it. Or I'm giving a chance of some comfort, let me accept it. It
Prabhuji,
will come on. Huh?
some, sometimes it happens on their own material comforts come, and you feel that I can enjoy these material comforts at the same time I can continue with bhakti. Can it happen, or again they will affect our consciousness?
It will affect your consciousness if you get too much involved in it, you know. It will come on your way. But therefore we see that those who are serious practitioners of pure devotional service, they reject those opportunities. They don't always succumb to those opportunities. Hmm? Like to give you an example, just giving a very basic example. Let's say you are invited to honor prasadam at a place, and someone has prepared 50 preparations to please you. Hmm? So now that's an opportunity to do sense gratification, isn't it? So if you think, now I have an opportunity, let me gratify my senses, then it's not good. I remember, because you have personally observed great souls live their life, therefore these things become very clear. I remember when I was in Juhu temple, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj used to come there, and sometimes we used to go and serve him, you know. So Maharaj, he hesitated to eat, I mean, three chapatis at a day, at a time. Sometimes he would fight with his servants. Don't give me three chapatis. I just want two chapatis. Don't make it three. Don't make it three. And then the servants are very clever. They thought Maharaj will eat only two, so let us make two chapatis very thick two chapatis. So then Maharaj used to tell, why are you making thick chapatis? I want thin chapatis and only two. No. So sometimes he would personally show, take this much dough. Don't take a bigger piece of dough. Take this much dough, and then roll a chapati from this. And just give me two chapatis. Don't give me more than that. That doesn't mean that there was not an opportunity to eat more, but always very strict. No, two means two only, not more than that. Mhm. Right? Of course, the example which I am quoting are very extreme levels of strictness, because they are in such a position, they have to set a very high standard by their personal conduct. But we have to learn slowly and slowly from them, step by from them, how they conduct themselves, isn't it? How they conduct themselves. Okay. So this is Bharat Maharaj, he gave up sense gratification easily because he was attached to the service of the Supreme Lord. Mm. Next verse, Sridhi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. In the Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 11th chapter, verse 25, there is a similar statement by Vritrasura, who addresses the Lord as follows. My dear Lord, by leaving your transcendental service, I may be promoted to the planet called Dhruva Loka, the pole star, or I may gain lordship over all the planetary systems of the universe. But I do not aspire to this, nor do I wish the mystic perfections of yoga practice, nor do I aspire to spiritual emancipation. All I wish for, my Lord, is your association and transcendental service eternally. This statement is confirmed by Lord Shiva in Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 17th chapter, verse 28, wherein Lord Shiva addresses Sati thus. My dear Sati, persons who are devoted to Narayan are not afraid of anything. If they are elevated to the higher planetary systems, or if they get liberation from material contamination, or if they are pushed down to the hellish condition of life, or in fact in any situation whatsoever, they are not afraid of anything, simply because they have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Narayan. For them, any possession in the material world is as good as another. There is a similar
Thank you,
statement.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So we hear these further evidences. One is a prayer by Vritrasura, and then there is another from Lord Shiva, right? So they are again reiterating the same mood. They don't want any kind of material sense gratification, or they don't want liberation, or any mystic perfection, but they just desire um, to serve the Supreme Lord. Mm. Next, Nagarajan Prabhu. Anjali Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you. This statement is confirmed by Lord Shiva in
There
Srimad.
is a statement, similar statement. Next paragraph.
Okay, Prabhuji. There is a similar statement by Indra, the king of heaven, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 18th chapter, verse 74. There, Indra addresses Mother Diti in this manner: My dear mother, persons who have given up all kinds of desires and are simply engaged in devotional service to the Lord know what is actually their self interest. Such persons are actually serving their self interest and are considered first class experts in the matter of advancing to the perfectional stage of life. In the seventh canto of Bhagavatam, 6th chapter, verse 25, Maharaja Prahlad says, My dear friend, born in atheistic families, if you can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, then there is nothing more rare in this world. In the other words, if the Supreme Lord Krishna is pleased with you, then any desire of you may have within the core of your heart can be fulfilled without any doubt. As such, what is the use of elevating yourself by the results of fruitive activities, which are automatically achieved in all events by the modes of material nature? And what is the use for you of spiritual emancipation or liberation from material bondage? If you are always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord and always relishing the nectar of the lotus feet of Lord, then there is no necessity for any of these. By this statement of Prahlad Maharaj, it is clearly understood that one who takes pleasure in chanting and hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord has already surpassed all kinds of material benedictions, including the results of pious fruitive activities, sacrifices, and even liberation from the material bondage. Similarly, in the same seventh canto, eighth chapter,
Thank you. So Indra is saying to Mother Dite that those who are engaged in devotional service, they know what is their self-interest. But those who want liberation, they don't know what is their self-interest. Therefore, they want liberation. Mm. And then we have Parad Maharaj saying, very beautifully, he is explaining that those who are pleasing the Supreme Lord, mm, they know that there is nothing more rare in this world. Nothing else is required. Only that much. So what is the use of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, which are automatically obtained by the influence of material modes? That will come anyway by one's karma. One will achieve those things. But pure devotional service, one will not. Isn't it? One will not. Can someone attain moksha by piety? Yes, one may attain moksha by piety. But can one attain pure devotional service by mundane piety? No, it's not. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha will come. But pure devotional service does not come on its own accord. These four things, they come by our different karmas that we conduct. These things come. But pure devotional service does not come by that. It comes only by the mercy of pure devotees. And it is rarely obtained. Therefore, when you go to an astrologer may tell you at what point of time in your life dharma will be prominent, at what time artha will come, at what time your desires will become fulfilled, kama will be there. At some time, you can also aspire for moksha. That period will also come in your life. So, an astrologer can talk about these four things: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. When will your karma support for these four things? But the astrologer cannot say when will pure devotional service come. That the astrologer cannot say. Mhm. Right? That astrologer can only talk about moksha or dharma, mundane dharma or moksha, but not pure devotional service. Therefore, it's wrong to go to an astrologer and ask, is bhakti written in my chart? You cannot ask an astrologer if bhakti is written in your chart. You can only ask if dharma is there in my chart. I am dharmic, religious in nature. That the astrologer may say, okay, yes, you have some favorable planets or whatever. But bhakti, no, not possible. Pure devotional service, no. Uh, Next paragraph. Shamala Hari Pratamadesh.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam Prabhu. Similarly, in the same seventh canto, eighth chapter, verse 42, when the demigods are offering prayers to the Lord, Indra, the king of heaven, says, O Supreme One, these demons talk of our share of participation in the performances of ritualistic sacrifices. But simply by your appearance as Lord Narasimhadeva, you have saved us from terrible fears. Actually, our shares in the sacrificial performances are due to you only, because you are the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices. You are the super soul of every living entity, and therefore you are the actual owner of everything. Long were our hearts always filled with fear of one, Hiranyakashipu, but you are so kind toward us that by killing him you have removed that fear from within our hearts, have given us the chance to place your lordship within our hearts again. For persons who are engaged in the transcendental loving service of your Lordship, all the opulences which were taken away from us by the demons are counted as nothing. Devotees do not care even for liberation. What to speak of material opulences? Actually, we are not enjoyers of the of sacrifice. Our only duty is to always be engaged in your service, for you are the enjoyer of everything. The purport of this statement by Indra is that beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant, no living entity are meant for enjoying the material opulences. They are simply meant for offering everything to the Supreme Proprietor, the personality of Godhead. By doing so, they automatically enjoy the benefit. Thus, example can be cited again of the different parts of the body collecting foodstuffs and cooking them so that ultimately meal may be offered to the after it has gone to the stomach. All the parts of the body equally enjoy the benefit of the meal. So similarly, everyone's duty is to satisfy the Supreme Lord, and then automatically everyone will become satisfied.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna
So
Prabhu.
Indra is praying to Lord Nrsimhadev. He is praying about or talking about pure devotional service. Right? Though Indra is not a pure devotee, he is talking about pure devotional service. He's telling what pure devotional service is. Mm. So he's telling that, okay, that's how pure devotees are.
One small clarification. Can I ask?
Yes, Prabhuji.
In the first para which Mataji read, Indra said, demons talk of our share of participation in the performances. Was there any doubt by demons or they were challenging that we are doing more ritualistic performances and devtas are getting more? Was there that kind of anything? Indra is saying, Supreme One, these demons talk of our share of participation in the performance of ritual sacrifices, but simply by your appearance as Narsinga, you have served us. What I understood was
You have saved us.
demons at
Yeah.
one point of time were as if they were questioning the devtas, demigods. What is your share of participation in the ritualistic sacrifice? This I was
Yeah.
not able to understand. Was it
So
that?
the demons and the demigods are always fighting amongst each other of who will lord over the material nature, who will be the administrator of the affairs of the material universe. So the demons, they will say, we are qualified, we should be doing it. The devatas, they say, we are qualified, we should be doing it. Like Hiranyakashipu, what did he do? He removed the devatas from their posts and he himself became the administrator. So there's always a fight going on who will administrate the affairs of the material universe. So the demigods, they say that the Lord to the Lord that you have appointed us. So we are supposed to be the rightful, you know, administrators. Why are the demons coming and taking away our position? In that way, he's saying that um, you are helping your devotees. However, we should know that in the prayers offered by the demigods, especially when we talk about the prayers offered by Indra and some of these personalities, they only talk about pure devotional service, but they don't practice pure devotional service.
Yeah.
Only here an example is given what pure devotional service is. But Indra is not always practicing pure devotional service. Indra only talks about pure devotional service. Because Indra knows what pure devotional service is. But Indra does not have that much of dependence and surrender towards the Lord that he can practice always pure devotional service. Hmm. And therefore, Indra is a very interesting personality, you know. Indra knows what pure devotional service is, but Indra is not able to practice pure devotional service. And the reason for that, given by the acharyas, is the position that Indra has occupied. Therefore, it's kind of a warning given to devotees that even you may be interested in pure devotional service, but if you are materially not situated properly, you are in a position which is like dealing too much of with respect and adoration, and then Ishwar Bhav is there, controllership mentality is there in a position, then that position will not help you practice pure devotional service. So Indra was in a problem. He was in such position, very, very, mm, dangerous position.
Probably this pure devotional service not practiced by Indra, any other demigods, or all demigods are on the same boat?
No, not all, not all, all. Some of them they practice pure devotional service, but generally it is found that Indra is not able to. You get many times examples of Indra, and the reason is because he is the king of the demigods. So too much of control is there in his hand, and that power uh, messes up his intelligence.
But Prabhuji, is not the practice that a pure devotee is given the position of Indra when he comes to
No,
the... No,
no,
it is not
no,
necessary. Not
no.
necessary. Okay.
The demigods are not always pure devotees. They're Mishra Bhaktas, mixed
Yes.
devotees.
Understood. Thank you.
They're not pure always. They're mixed. They have mixture. They have devotion, and at the same time, they have enjoyment mentality. Therefore, you should know one thing very interesting, that uh, that in an institute, in a spiritual institute like iskcon or Gaudiya Math or such institutes, generally those who are mixed devotees, they will be given big post and position by the spiritual master. Those who are aspiring pure devotional service, they may not be given any post or position by the spiritual master.
Correct. Because they have to run the administration, and in performing those duties, they have to do certain things which come in the way of pure devotional service.
So those who are mixed devotees, they easily get post and position. Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he did not give Srila Prabhupada any post or position in Gaudiya Math. Once a godbrother of Srila Prabhupada, he approached Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati and told Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati. He was uh, kind of doing sifarish, you know, for Srila Prabhupada. And Abhay Babu is very expert. He does everything very nicely. So let us involve him in Gaudiya Math. Let us give him some responsibility. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, no, I want to keep him away from all this management. So then that devotee said, but he's very capable. So Bhaktisiddhanta said, don't worry, when his time will come, he'll do everything. So
And actually, when the time came, he
he did everything.
did everything.
They said, I don't want him to involve in all this stuff. When his time will come, he'll do everything. So those who are mixed devotees, they get involved in big post and position because that's their nature. That's what they want. That satisfies them. That keeps them happy and motivated in Krishna consciousness. If you take away that from them, then their Krishna consciousness will go hither and thither. Right. So, but those who are practicing pure devotional service always, they may not be given such facilities because they are not interested in those facilities. And those facilities don't drive them or inspire them to practice Krishna consciousness. Or sometimes, uh, in very rare case, when one is very pure and very perfect, and one will not become shaken by the problems that come in post opposition, then also spiritual master may give such a post opposition. You know, to someone who is very steady, one will not be affected by it.
There is the
Like
example.
example of Bhishma Pitama.
What about Gopal, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj?
Yeah, in current times, you can say Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Prabhupada made him the GBC and BBT trustee because he knew that this man is reliable, this person is reliable, I can trust him. And then Maharaj, from that day till the day he's left his body, he remained loyal to those two responsibilities. Did not fall from that responsibility, GBC or BBT trustee, right? So in some rare cases, such responsibilities may be handed over when someone is very fixed up. Otherwise, in general, those who are mixed, they are given the post and position. Okay, you be happy with that. Right. So Indra is in that category. Next. Nagarajan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. A similar verse is found in the 8th canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 20. Gajendra says there, "My dear Lord, I have no experience of the transcendental bliss derived from your devotional service. So therefore I have asked from you some favor. But I know that persons who are pure devotees and have, by serving the lotus feet of great souls, become freed from all material desires, are always merged in the ocean of transcendental bliss, and as such are always satisfied simply by glorifying your auspicious characteristics. For them, there is nothing else to aspire to or pray for." In ninth canto of Bhagavatam, 4th chapter, verse 67, the Lord of Vaikunta replies to Durvasa Muni thus, "My pure devotees are always satisfied being engaged in devotional service, and therefore they do not aspire even after the 5 liberated stages, which are 1. To be one with me, 2. To achieve residence on my planet, 3. To have my opulences, 4. To possess bodily features similar to mine, and 5. To gain personal association with me." So, when they are not interested even in these liberated positions, you can know how little they care for material opulences or material liberation. There is a similar prayer. There is a similar prayer by the Nagapatnis, wives of the Kaliya serpent, in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 16th chapter, verse 37. The Nagapatnis says there, "Dear Lord, the dust of your lotus feet is very wonderful. Any person who is fortunate enough to achieve this dust does not care for heavenly planets, lordship over all the planetary systems, the mystic perfection of yoga, or even liberation from the material existence. In other words, anyone who adores the dust of your lotus feet does not care a fig for all other perfectional stages." There is a similar statement in the 10th canto, 87th chapter, verse 21, wherein the Shrutis, the Vedas personified, pray to the Lord as follows: "Dear Lord, it is very difficult to understand spiritual knowledge. Your appearance here, just as you are, is to explain to us this most difficult subject of knowledge of the Spirit. As such, your devotees who have left their domestic comforts to associate with the liberated acharyas, teachers, are now fully merged in the devotional service of your lordship, and thus they do not care for any so-called liberation." In
Thank you.
explaining,
So then we have heard other prayers also, wives of Kaliya, serpent, even the Vedas personified, they are praying to the Lord. That, devotees are not interested in comfort. Hmm? It's very important. Next. Neha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. In explaining this verse, it should be noted that spiritual knowledge means understanding the self and the super soul or super self. The individual soul and the super soul are qualitatively one, and therefore both of them are known as Brahman or spirit. But knowledge of Brahman is very difficult to understand. There are so many philosophers engaged in the matter of understanding the soul, but they are unable to make any tangible advancement. It is confirmed in Bhagavad-gita that out of many millions of persons, only one may try to understand what is spiritual knowledge, and out of many such persons who are trying to understand, only one or a few may know what is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this verse says that spiritual knowledge is very difficult to achieve. And so in order to make it more easily attainable, the Supreme Lord himself comes in the original form as Sri Krishna and gives this instruction directly to an associate like Arjuna, just so that the people in general may take advantage of this spiritual knowledge. This verse also explains that liberation means having completely given up all the material comforts of life. Those who are impersonalists are satisfied by simply being liberated from the material circumstances, but those who are devotees can automatically give up material life and also enjoy the transcendental bliss of hearing and chanting the wonderful activities of Lord Krishna. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 20th chapter, verse 34, Lord Krishna says to Uddhava, "My dear Uddhava, the devotees who have completely taken shelter of my service are so steadfast in devotional service that they have no other desire. Even if they are offered the four kinds of spiritual opulences, they will refuse to accept." Could you please scroll the screen? They will refuse to accept them. So what to speak of their desiring anything within the material world? Similarly, Lord Krishna says in another passage of the Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 14th chapter, verse 14. My dear Uddhava, a person whose consciousness is completely absorbed in my thought and activities does not aspire even to occupy the post of Brahma or the post of Indra, or the post of lordship over the planets, or the 8 kinds of mystic perfections, or even liberation itself. In the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th chapter, verse 6, Lord Shiva says to Devi, "My dear Devi, this great Brahmana sage Markandeya has attained unflinching faith and devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such he does not aspire after any benedictions, including liberation from the material world." Similarly, there is a statement in Padma Puran. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Martha.
Prabhuji, what is that 4 kinds of spiritual opulences which is talked about in this para?
Yes, Prabhu.
Lord says to Uddhava, the devotees who have completely taken shelter of my service are so steadfast, even if they are offered 4 kinds of spiritual opulences, they will refuse to accept.
These 4 spiritual opulences are the same as 4 types of liberation.
Okay, Sayujya, Salokya, Srishti, and Sarsh. Okay.
Not Sayuja, but excluding Sayuja, the remaining 4.
Sayujya, okay, become one with me. That is why that is given. 5th kind of liberation is not acceptable. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hmm. Next. Similarly, there is a statement in Padma Puran describing the ritualistic function during the month of Kartika, October to November. During this month in Vrindavan, it is the regulative principle to pray daily to Lord Krishna in his Damodar form. The Damodar form refers to Krishna in his childhood when he was tied up with rope by his mother Yashoda. Dama means ropes and Udar means the abdomen. So Mother Yashoda, being disturbed by a naughty Krishna, bound him round the abdomen with a rope. Thus Krishna is named Damodara. During Kartik, Damodar is praised to as follows. My dear Lord, you are the Lord of all, the giver of all benedictions. There are uh, many demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva who sometimes offer benedictions to their respective devotees. For example, Ravan was blessed with many benedictions by Lord Shiva, and Hiranyakashipu was blessed by Lord Brahma. But even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma depend upon the benedictions of Lord Krishna, and therefore Krishna is addressed as the Lord of all benefactors. As such, Lord Krishna can offer his devotees anything they want, but still the devotee's prayer continues. I do not ask you for liberation or any material facility up to the point of liberation. What I want as your favor is that I may always think of your form in which I see you now, as Damodara. You are so beautiful and attractive that my mind does not want anything besides this wonderful form. In this same prayer, there is another passage in which it is said, my dear Lord Damodar, once you were playing as a naughty boy in the house of Nanda Maharaj, you broke the box containing yogurt, and because of that, Mother Yashoda considered you an offender and tied you with rope to the household grinding mortar. At that time, you delivered the two sons of Kuvera, Nalakuvar and Manigriva, who were staying there as two Arjuna trees in the yard of Nanda Maharaj. My only request is that by your merciful pastimes, you may similarly deliver me. See, if you read the Puranas, which talk about the glories of Devi, Durga Devi, or the glories of Lord Shiva, uh, there are there are scriptures like that. And when you read or hear about the associates and followers of Shiva and Durga, or of those different demigods, you will not notice such level of purity in their prayer. Only in the devotees of Lord Vishnu or Krishna, you find that the prayer is very pure. There is no expectation of material sense gratification. There is no expectation of liberation. Mm. But generally, the exalted worshippers of the other personalities, their prayer is tinted with sense gratification, some kind of sense gratification they want. Mhm. Only devotees of Krishna do not desire, pure devotees. So one cannot say I am a pure devotee of Lord Shiva. One cannot say I am a pure devotee of Durga Devi. Not possible. Don't find. Only with the Lord, Supreme Lord, that is possible. Um, Now Prabhupada gives a description of the pastime of Damodara. Let's read this. Someone read this, please. Ashoka Neja Prabhuji, the story behind this verse. Unmute yourself now.
This story, Hare Krishna. The story behind this verse is that the two sons of Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, were puffed up on account of opulence of their father, and so once on a heavenly planet, they were enjoying themselves in a lake with some naked damsels of heaven. At that time, the great saint Narad Muni was passing on the road and was sorry to see the behavior of the sons of Kuvera. Seeing Narada passing by, the damsels of heaven covered their bodies with cloth, but the two sons, being drunkards, did not have this decency. Narada became very angry with their behavior and cursed them thus: "You have no sense, so it is better if you become trees instead of the sons of Kuvera." Upon hearing this, the boys came to their senses and begged Narada to be pardoned for their offenses. Narada then said, "Yes, you shall become trees, Arjuna trees, and you will stand in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. But Krishna himself will appear in time as the foster son of Nanda, and he will deliver you." In other words, the curse of Narada was a benediction to the sons of Kuvera, because indirectly it was foretold that they would be able to receive the favor of Lord Krishna. After that, Kubera's two sons stood as two big Arjuna trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj until Lord Damodar, in order to fulfill the desire of Narad, dragged the grinding mortar to which he was tied and struck the two trees violently, causing them to fall down. From out of these fallen trees came Nalakuber and Manigriva, who had by then become great devotees of the Lord. There is a passage in the Haryashriyat Panchratra, which states, "My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I do not want any resultant benediction from my religious life, nor do I want any economic development, nor do I want to enjoy sense gratification, nor liberation. I simply pray to be an eternal servant at your lotus feet. Kindly oblige me and give me this benediction." In the Hayasirsa Panchratra, after nursing, they wanted to give benedictions to Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad did not accept any material benediction and simply asked the favor of the Lord to remain his eternal devotee. In this connection, Prahlad Maharaj cited the example of Hanuman, the eternal servitor of Lord Ramachandra, who also set an example by never asking any material favor from the Lord. He always remained engaged in Lord's service. That is the ideal character of Hanuman, for which he is still worshipped by all devotees. Prahlad Maharaj also offered his respectful obeisances unto Hanuman. There is a well-known verse spoken by Hanuman in which he says, "My dear Lord, if you like, you can give me salvation from this material existence or the privilege of merging into your existence, but I do not wish any kind of these things. I do not want anything which diminishes my relationship with you as servant to master even after liberation."
Thank
In
you,
a,
Shridev Prabhu.
In a similar passage in the Narada Pancharatra, it is stated, "My dear Lord, I do not wish any perfectional stage by performing the ritualistic religious ceremonies or by economic development or by sense gratification or liberation. I simply pray that you grant me the favor of keeping me under your lotus feet. I do not wish any kind of liberation such as salokya or sarupya. I simply pray for your favor that I may be always engaged in your loving service." Similarly, in the 6th canto, 14th chapter, verse 5 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parikshit inquires from Shukadev Goswami, "My dear Brahmana, I understand that the demon Vritrasura was a greatly sinful person and that his mentality was completely absorbed in the modes of passion and ignorance. How did he develop such a perfectional stage of devotional service to Narayan? I have heard that even great persons who have undergone severe austerities and who are liberated with full knowledge must strive to become devotees of the Lord. It is understood that such persons are very rare and almost never to be seen. So I am astonished that Vritrasura became such a devotee." In the above verse, the most important thing to be noted is that there may be many liberated persons who have merged into the existence of the impersonal Brahman. But a devotee of the Supreme Lord Narayan is very, very rare. Even out of millions of liberated persons, only one is fortunate enough to become a devotee. In Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 8th chapter, verse 20, Queen Kunti is praying to Lord Krishna at the time of his departure. "My dear Krishna, you're so great that you are inconceivable even to great stalwart scholars and paramahamsas. So, if such great sages who are transcendental to all the reactions of material existence are unable to know you, then as far as we are concerned, belonging to the less intelligent women class, how is it possible for us to know your glories? How can we understand you?" In this verse, the particular thing to be noted is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not understood by great liberated persons, but only by devotees such as Queen Kunti in her humbleness. Although she was a woman and was considered less intelligent than a man, still she realized the glories of Krishna. That is the purport of this verse. Another.
Thank you.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Next paragraph, Radhika Leela.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Another passage that is very important is in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 7th chapter, verse 10, and is called the Atmarama verse. In this Atmarama verse, it is stated that even those who are completely liberated from material contamination are attracted by the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna. The purport of this verse is that a liberated soul has absolutely no desire at all for material enjoyment. He is wholly freed from all kinds of material desires, yet still he is irresistibly attracted by the desire to hear and understand the pastimes of the Lord. We may therefore conclude that the glories and pastimes of the Lord are not material. Otherwise, how could the liberated persons known as the Atmaramas be attracted by such pastimes? That is the important point in this verse. From the above statement, it is found that a devotee is not after any of the stages of liberation. There are 5 stages of liberation already explained as being: 1, to become one with the Lord; 2, to live on the same planet as the Lord; 3, to obtain the same bodily features as the Lord; 4th, to have the same opulences as the Lord; and 5th, to have constant association with the Lord. Out of these 5 liberated stages, the one which is known as the Sahayujya, or merge into the existence of the Lord, is the last to be accepted by a devotee. The other 4 liberations, although not desired by the devotees, are still not against the devotional ideals. Some of the liberated persons who have achieved these 4 stages of liberation may also develop affection for Krishna and be promoted to the Golok Vrindavana planet in the spiritual sky. In other words, those who are already promoted to the Vaikuntha planets and who possess the 4 kinds of liberation may also sometimes develop affection for Krishna and become promoted to Krishna Loka. So those who are in the 4 liberated states may still be going through different stages of existence. In the beginning, they may want the opulences of Krishna, but at the mature stage, the dormant love for Krishna exhibited in Vrindavana becomes prominent in their hearts. As such, pure devotees never accept the liberation of Sahayujya, no, to become one with the Supreme, though sometimes they may accept as favorable the other 4 liberated states. Out of many kinds of devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the one who is attracted to the original form of the Lord, Krishna in Vrindavana, is considered to be the foremost first-class devotee. Such a devotee is never attracted by the opulences of Vaikuntha or even of Dwaraka, the royal city where Krishna ruled. The conclusion of Sri Rupa Goswami is that devotees who are attracted by the pastimes of the Lord in Goloka or Vrindavana are the topmost devotees. A, de a devotee who is attracted to a particular form of the Lord does not wish to redirect his devotion to other forms. For example, Hanuman, the devotee of Ramachandra, knew that there is no difference between Ramachandra and Lord Narayana, and yet he still wanted to render service only unto Lord Ramachandra. This is due to the specific attraction of a particular devotee. There are many, many forms of the Lord, but Krishna is still the original form. Though all of the devotees of the different forms of the Lord are in the same category, still it is said that those who are devotees of Lord Krishna are the topmost in the list of all devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here, when we were discussing about devotees not getting attracted to liberation or not interested in liberation, Rup Goswami quoted many verses to explain that point. So this paragraph where the verse about Atma Rama is mentioned, that is the last verse in that topic or in that series. After that, a new topic is raised by Srila Rupa Goswami, and that topic is uh, the 4 types of liberation, which are not against or anti devotional in nature, right? So these 4 liberations may be accepted by a devotee to serve the Supreme Lord. Um, and then Rupa Goswami says, but those who are uh, devotees of Lord Krishna in the Vrindavan mood, the Vraja mood, then they don't even get attracted to these liberations. Mm. So at the end, he's explaining, quoting that uh, devotees of Krishna especially devotees of Krishna in Vrindavan, not the devotees of Krishna in Dwarka or in Mathura, but the devotees in Vrindavan are the topmost devotees because they are not attracted to any of the opulences of Krishna. They are not attracted to Aishwarya of Krishna. They are only attracted to intimate sweetness of Krishna. That is explained. Now, different devotees have different adhikar, as we were discussing. Sudama, the friend of Krishna, whose story comes in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, is of a different level. Yudhishthir Maharaj is of a different level. Prahlad Maharaj is of a different level. Jal Bharata is of a different level. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Jal Bharata or Sudama Brahman are devotees of that nature who do not want material opulences because they think that material opulences will distract them away from devotional service. Whereas Yudhishthir Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj are devotees who are indifferent to material opulence. Indifferent to material opulence means if they have it, they will use it in Krishna Seva. If they don't have it, they have no problem. So, individually, what is your nature and what is your adhikar, that you have to find by discussion with your spiritual master or your spiritual teachers or guides, and how much material opulence you can accept in life and not be affected by the desire for sense gratification or lording over material nature, and continue to. Like here it is said, four types of liberation are not against devotional service. But some devotees may not want those four kinds of liberation at all. And some may want it. Okay, fine, it will assist my devotional service, so let me have it. Who will not want such four types of liberation? Devotees of Krishna in Vrindavan will not want such types of liberation. But who may want or desire such types of liberation? Devotees of Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha may desire such types of liberation. Okay, any questions or comments?
Prabhuji, in Sri Vaishnava Sampradayam, their ultimate goal is for liberation. So it is comes under this category only, Prabhu.
Yes, they want to serve the Supreme Lord in Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha Gamanam, Vaikuntha Gati. So naturally, they have attraction towards Lord's Aishwarya.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Can you explain this fifth one to have constant association with the Lord? How it is the fifth, that is the fifth stage of liberation, how it is called liberation?
Constant association means you are always with the Lord.
Yeah, that is good only, right?
That is good. There is nothing wrong with that. It will help you to serve the Lord in some ways. But why you want to be always with the Lord?
Why it is
Serve
called
the Lord, to serve the Lord, or to enjoy what the Lord has?
serve the Lord?
Then that is fine. But then someone may want that position because that person wants to enjoy what the Lord has.
Oh.
Right? So then that becomes unfavorable for devotional service.
Prabhuji,
Like I'll give you an example. So some devotees, they always want to be with the spiritual master. You know. So those who genuinely want the association of spiritual master will think that the spiritual master is going by car. I don't have a car, so I'll go by bus. But wherever the spiritual master is going, I will also accompany my spiritual master, right? So that person is interested in the association of the spiritual master, not the facility of going in a car. That person may also travel by the bus. But someone may tell the spiritual master, I always want to be with you. That means wherever you go, I want to go with you in your car. So there, the association of the spiritual master is desired, but along with the facility of the car. So there's a difference now, right? So someone may be close to Krishna, but to serve Krishna. And if that intimacy or closeness is not required, that person may go out of that closeness or intimacy also. But someone may want to be just close to Krishna to enjoy the opulences of Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhu. Understood.
That's
Thank you.
what that's why that liberation is helpful, at the same time it is not helpful.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Any other question? No? So we go to the next chapter, chapter 5. We'll complete this chapter today itself, chapter 5. The purity of pure devotional service. The purity of devotional service, sorry. So now in this chapter, Srila Rupa Goswami is going to talk about how pure devotional service is not dependent on any material consideration, the execution of pure devotional service, or the perfection of pure devotional service. Hmm. Other processes, they rely on external circumstances like karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, karma kanda. Uh, there are things, there are prerequisites for that. But in pure devotional service, there are no material considerations. Hmm. So that is the purity of devotional service. Anyone is allowed to enter into it. There's no material bar. Hmm. But on other paths, there are certain criterion. Birth is a criterion, knowledge is a criterion, renunciation is the criterion. But in pure devotional service, none of these are the criteria, right? Hmm. That is important to understand. Um, like for example, when someone is cultivating jnana or is performing jnana yoga, what is required? A very peaceful, renounced disposition is required for that, and a very high intellect is required for that. Otherwise, one cannot be a jnani if you don't have good intellect, you don't have a peaceful nature, you cannot be a jnani. Similarly, for Ashtanga Yoga, the prerequisite is that you must take sannyas. If you are not a sannyasi, you cannot practice Ashtanga Yoga. properly. Because Ashtanga Yoga, the first prerequisite is we studied in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmacharya. Then Karma Kanda, it depends on so many things: time, place, circumstance, ingredients. You want to do yajna depends on time, place, ingredients. So all there are material, requirements for all those paths. But only Bhakti Yoga doesn't depend on those material external circumstances. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga is pure. Devotional service is pure. So this is explained in this chapter. Hmm. Uh, so Rupa Goswami is going to tell how Bhakti does not depend on birth, how Bhakti does not depend on knowledge, how Bhakti does not depend on renunciation, how Bhakti does not depend on purity, purity of mind, purity of intelligence. How Bhakti is also not dependent on execution of Varnashrama. Right? Bhakti is not dependent on that. Pure devotional service is not dependent on that. Okay, purity of devotional service. Neha Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. The purity of devotional service. All of the previous instructions imparted by Srila Rupa Goswami in his broad statements can be summarized thus. As long as one is materially inclined or desirous of merging into the spiritual effulgence, one cannot enter into the realm of pure devotional service. Next, Rupa Goswami states that devotional service is transcendental to all material considerations and that it is not limited to any particular country, class, society, or circumstance. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is transcendental and has no cause. Devotional service is executed without any hope for gain and it cannot be checked by any material circumstances. It is open for all without any distinction and it is the constitutional occupation of the living entities. In the Middle Ages, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya's great associate Lord Nityananda, a class of priestly persons claimed to be the descendants of Nityananda, calling themselves the Goswami caste. They further claimed that the practice and spreading of devotional service belonged only to their particular class, which was known as Nityananda Vamsha. In this way, they exercised their artificial power for some time until Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the powerful Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. There was a great hard struggle for some time, but it has turned out successfully and it is now correctly and practically established that devotional service is not restricted to a particular class of men. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already at the status of being a high class Brahmana. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's struggle for this movement has come out successfully. It is on the basis of his position that anyone can now become a Gaudiya Vaishnava from any part of the world or any part of the universe. Anyone who is a pure Vaishnava is situated transcendentally and therefore the highest qualification in the material world, namely to be in the mode of goodness, has already been achieved by such a person. Our Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world is based on the above mentioned proposition of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, our spiritual master. On his authority, we are claiming members from all sections of the Western countries. The so-called Brahmanas claim that one who is not born into a Brahmana family cannot receive the sacred thread and cannot become a high-grade Vaishnava. But we do not accept such a theory because it is not supported by Rupa Goswami nor by the strength of the various scriptures. Srila Rupa Goswami specifically mentions herein that every man has the birthright to accept devotional service and to become Krishna conscious. He has given many evidences from many scriptures and he has specially quoted one passage from Padma Puran wherein the sage Vasishtha tells King Dilipa My dear king, everyone has the right to execute devotional service just as he has the right to take early bath in the month of Magha, December, January. There is more evidence in the Skanda Puran, in the Kashi Khanda portion, where it is said, in the country known as Mayuradhwaja, the lower caste people who are considered less than Shudras are also initiated in the Vaishnava cult of devotional service. And when they are properly dressed with tilak on their bodies and beads in their hands and on their necks, they appear to be coming from Vaikuntha. In fact, they look so very beautiful that immediately they surpass the ordinary Brahmanas. Thus, a Vaishnava automatically becomes a Brahmana. This idea is also supported by Sanatan Goswami in his book Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is the Vaishnava guide. Therein, he has clearly stated that any person who is properly initiated into the Vaishnava cult certainly becomes a Brahmana, as much as the metal known as kamsa, bell metal, is turned into gold by the mixture of mercury. A bona fide spiritual master, under the guidance of authorities, can turn anyone to the Vaishnava cult so that naturally he may come to the topmost position of a Brahmana.
Thank you,
Srila
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So in these paragraphs, we learned how birth is not a criteria to come to pure devotional service. Right? Birth is not a criteria. This is a very strong misconception in India that someone who's born in a Brahmin family, someone who's born in this family or that family is more qualified for pure devotional service. Right? So birth is not a criterion. First thing is that. Um, birth is not the criterion. Skin color is not the criterion. Even in America, when Srila Prabhupada started preaching, because his audience were full of white skinned people. So those devotees, some of them, they thought that black skinned people are not qualified for bhakti. So they did not really encourage black skinned devotees. Or those white skinned devotees, when they came to India, then they thought that in general, Indians are not qualified for bhakti. So this concept that the place I am born, people who are of my skin color, people who are coming from the ethnic background as I am coming, that particular group is only qualified for devotional service. That is a wrong idea. Fine. So, like Bhakti Siddhanta Sarij Thakur example Prabhupada is quoting, those who thought we are born in Nityananda Vamsha are only qualified for devotional service, pure devotional service. Or those who thought we are born in the lineage of Advaita Acharya are only qualified for pure devotional service. So that is a wrong understanding. Not on the basis of birth, one becomes qualified. So by the process of Diksha, even if someone is not born in a good family, that person may become qualified for pure devotional service. Okay. But then in the next paragraph, Rupa Goswami says, don't think that just because you are initiated, that's done. Now finish. He said, no. After that, you have to continue to execute pure devotional service. And if you fail in observing the limbs of pure devotional service, then you fall down from the path of pure devotional service. What are those principles of pure devotional service that one has to observe? It's mentioned, even if one is not able to observe the rules and regulations of Varna and Ashrama, that's not considered a fall down from pure devotional service. But if one is not able to observe the principles and practices of pure devotional service, that is considered a fall down from pure devotional service. So what are those practices? Not observing Ekadashi properly. If you don't observe Ekadashi properly, will fall down from pure devotional service. not observing festivals like Janmashtami, Gaur Purnima, etc. properly. If you don't observe these festivals properly, you'll fall down from pure devotional service. But other rules, if you don't follow, Varnashram rules, sometimes exemption is there. Even if someone commits sinful activity, activity,
Not perform pure devotional service.
exemption is there. Exemption is there. Abhi chet sudaracharo bhajate mamananyabha sadhureva samantadya samyak vyavasito hi saha. Exemption is there. But if one fails to observe the practices of pure devotional service, then one falls down from pure devotional service. Right? So next topic which will be discussed is purity. How much purity is important in pure devotional service? So that purity is not important in the initial stage to come to pure devotional service, but however, maintaining that purity is important. And even if one is not able to maintain that purity, then prayaschitta is not to be done. Karma kandiya prayaschitta is not to be done. One simply has to practice pure service again or begin pure devotional service again. Then one is resituated into pure devotional service, the practice of pure devotional service, right? So the next first topic was birth. Now the second topic is purity, which Rupa Goswami is going to address. Um, let's read. Anjali Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. Srila Rupa Goswami warns, however, that if a person is properly initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, he should not think that simply by acceptance of such initiation, his business is then finished. One still has to follow the rules and regulations very carefully. If after accepting the spiritual master and being initiated, one does not follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, then he is again fallen. One must be very vigilant to remember that he is the part and parcel of transcendental body of Krishna, and that it is his duty as part and parcel to give service to the whole or Krishna. If we do not render service to Krishna, then again we fall down. In other words, simply becoming initiated does not elevate one to the position of high class Brahmana. One also has to discharge the duties and follow the regulative principles very rigidly. Sri Rupa Goswami also says that if one is regularly discharging devotional service, there will be no question of fall down. But even if circumstantially there is some fall down, the Vaishnav need have nothing to do with the prayaschitta, the ritualistic ceremony for purification. If someone falls down from the principle of devotional service, he need not take to the prayaschitta performances for reformation. He simply has to execute the rules and regulations for discharging devotional service, and this is sufficient for his reinstatement. This is the mystery of the Vaishnava devotional cult. Practically, there are three processes for elevating one to the platform of spiritual consciousness. These processes are called karma, jnana, and bhakti. Ritualistic performances are in the field of karma, speculative processes are in the field of jnana. One who is taken to the bhakti, the devotional service of the Lord, need have nothing to do with karma and jnana. It has already explained that pure devotional service is without any tinge of karma or jnana. Bhakti should have no tinge of philosophical speculations or ritualistic performances. In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami gives evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 21st chapter, verse 2, in which Lord Krishna says to Uddhava, the distinction between the qualification and disqualification may be made in this way. Persons who are already elevated in discharging devotional service will never again take shelter of the process of fruitive activity or philosophical speculation. If one sticks to devotional service and is conducted by regulative principles given by the authorities and acharyas, that is the best qualification.
Thank
This
you, Mataji.
Krishna Prabhuji Dandvat Pranam.
Hmm. Nagarajan from.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu. The statement is supported in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 5th chapter, verse 17, wherein Sri Narada Muni advises Vyasadeva thus: even if one does not execute his specific occupational duty, but immediately takes direct shelter of the lotus feet of Hari, Krishna, there will be no fault on his part, and in all circumstances his position is secure. Even if, by some bad association, he falls down while executing devotional service, or if he does not finish the complete course of devotional service and dies untimely, still he is not at all not at a loss. A person who is simply discharging his occupational duty in Varna and Ashrama, however, with no Krishna consciousness, practically does not gain the true benefit of human life. The purport is that all conditioned souls who are engaged very frantically in activities for sense gratification without knowing that this process will never help them get out of material contamination are awarded only with repeated births and deaths. In the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly stated by Rishabhdeva to his sons: persons engaged in fruitive activities are repeatedly accepting birth and death, and until they develop a loving feeling for Vasudeva, there will be no question of getting out from these stringent laws of material nature. As such, any person who is very seriously engaged in his occupational duties in the Varnas and Ashramas and who does not develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, should be understood to be simply spoiling his human form of life. This is confirmed also in 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th chapter, verse 32, in which the Lord says to Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, any person who takes shelter of me in complete surrender and follows my instruction, giving up all occupational duties, is to be considered the first class man. In this statement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is understood that people who are generally attracted to philanthropic, ethical, moral, altruistic, political, and social welfare activities may be considered nice men only in the calculation of the material world. From Srimad Bhagavatam and other authentic Vedic scriptures, we learn further that if a person simply acts in Krishna consciousness and discharges devotional service, he is considered to be far, far better situated than all of those persons engaged in philanthropic, ethical, moral, altruistic, and social welfare activities. The same thing is still more empathetically confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, 5th chapter, verse 41, in which Karabhajana Muni, Karabhajana Muni addresses Maharaj Nimi as follows: my dear king, if someone gives up his occupational duties as they are prescribed for the different varnas and ashramas, but takes complete shelter, surrendering himself unto the lotus feet of the Lord, such a person is no more a debtor, nor has he any obligation to perform the different kinds of activities we render to the great sages, ancestors, living entities, and family and society members, nor has he any need to bother executing the five kinds of yajnas, sacrifices, for becoming free from sinful contaminations. Simply by discharging devotional service, he is freed from all kinds of obligations. The purport is that as soon as a man takes his birth, he is immediately indebted to so many sources. He is indebted to the great sages because he profits by reading their authoritative scripture and books. For example, we take advantage of books written by Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva has left for us all the Vedas. Before Vyasadeva's writing, the Vedic literature was simply heard, and the disciples would learn the mantras quickly by hearing and not by reading. Later on, Vyasadeva thought it wise to write down the Vedas because in this age people are short memorized and unable to remember all the instructions given by the spiritual master. Therefore, he left all the Vedic knowledge in the form of books such as Puranas, Vedanta, Mahabharata, and Srimad Bhagavatam. There are many other sages like Sankaracharya, Gautama Muni, and Narada Muni to whom we are indebted because we take advantage of their knowledge. Similarly, we are obliged to our forefathers because we take our birth in a particular family where we take all advantages and inherit property. Therefore, we are indebted to the forefathers and have to offer them Pinda Prasada after they are dead. Similarly, to the people in general, we are also indebted, as well as to our relatives, friends, and even animals, such as cows and dogs, who render us so much service.
Thank
In
you,
this way,
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So this topic is the third topic. First, birth was mentioned, then purity, and the third is occupational duty or varnashrama. So Rupa Goswami is saying, even if someone is not able to properly execute the duties of varnashrama, but that person clicks to pure devotional service of the Lord, then that person is exempted from the mistakes committed by not observing varnashram properly, right? Um, Therefore, you see, Srila Prabhupada, when he was leaving this world, he told in some of his lectures or conversations that 50% of my work is not over. So the devotees asked, what is that 50% of the work that you are talking about? So Srila Prabhupada said that I wanted to establish Varnashram. So then devotees, they asked Prabhupada that, Srila Prabhupada, in Nectar of Devotion, you have taught that pure devotional service does not depend on Varnashram. If you take to pure devotional service, then Varnashram is not required. Yeah? Then Srila said, but what I have observed is that most of you are not qualified for pure devotions. Therefore, you need to start with Varnashram first and then come to the level of pure devotional service. So then he was emphasizing a lot on Varnashram. And therefore, if you see the purpose given by Srila Prabhupada to Srimad Bhagavatam, he is talking so much about Varnashrama in the purpose. The duties of a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, the duties of a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra, the duties of a human being. He's talking so much about Varnashrama because he's saying that the current population is not even human beings; they're animals. You know, so how can animals they take to pure devotional service? First of all, they should become human beings. And how do they become human beings? By following the duties properly, at least of Varna and Ashrama. And then they can enter into pure devotional service. However, though this is the path drawn by the Acharya, if someone is very eager for pure devotional service and is not qualified or not performing the duties of Varnashram 100% accurately, then that person can also enter into pure devotional service by the mercy of the pure devotees of Krishna. Hmm. So if we think I am qualified for pure devotional service, that moment I become disqualified for pure devotional service. But if you are honest and you understand that you are not qualified for pure devotional service because you are not following the rules of Varnashram properly, you don't have a good birth, you are not pure in mind, you're not pure in heart, right? You don't have jnana, vairagya. So thinking like that, a person who is humble, he thinks, I am not qualified for pure devotional service. But at the same time, pure devotional service is so attractive that I want to practice pure devotional service. And then begs for pure devotional service, then by the mercy of pure devotees of Krishna, one may get entrance into pure devotional service. So one may take the long way, which is first of all, from an animal become a human being, then follow the rules of varnashram properly, and then come to pure devotional service. One is that way. Or the other way is that you understand that I'm not qualified for pure devotional service, but I sincerely want it. I desire it. I beg for it. And by the mercy of pure devotees, I can also get it. So then that person can get entrance into pure devotional service. So here Rup Goswami is saying that pure devotional service does not depend on all those factors. It doesn't depend. It doesn't depend on those factors. And, right? Uh, but the individual candidate has to have that attraction towards it or a yearning towards it. The heart's cry for it. I'm crying for that pure devotional service. Such a mood should be there. Then one may be given entrance into pure devotional service. One becomes an adhikari for Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service to Krishna. Then execute pure devotional service like that. Okay. Next paragraph. Ashok Major.
In this way, we are indebted to the demigods, to the forefathers, to the sages, to the animals, and to society in general. It is our duty to repay them all by proper discharge of service. But by the one stroke of devotional service, someone gives up all obligations and simply surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is no longer a debtor nor obliged to any other source of benefit. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, "Give up all your occupations and just become surrendered unto me. I give you assurance that I shall give you protection from all sinful reactions." One may think that because he is surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he will not be able to perform all of his other obligations. But the Lord says repeatedly, don't hesitate. Don't consider that because you are giving up all other engagements, there will be some flaw in your life. Don't think that like that. I'll give you all protection. That is the assurance of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. There is additional evidence in the Agastya Samhita as the regulative principles of scriptures are not required for a liberated person, so the ritualistic principles indicated in the Vedic supplements are also not required for a person duly engaged in the service of Lord Ramachandra. In other words, the devotees of Lord Ramachandra or Krishna are already liberated persons and are not required to follow all the regulative principles mentioned in the ritualistic portions of the Vedic literature. Similarly, in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, verse 42, Karabhajana Muni addresses King Nimi and says, "My dear king, a person who has given up the worship of the demigods and has completely concentrated his energy in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has become very, very dear to the Lord. As such, if by chance or mistake he does something which is forbidden, there is no need for him to perform any purificatory ceremonies. Because the Lord is situated within his heart, he takes compassion for the devotee's accidental mistake and corrects him from within. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita in many places that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, takes a special interest in his devotees and declares emphatically that nothing can cause his devotees to fall down. He is always protecting them. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. The conclusion is bhakti is totally independent and self-sufficient, right? Which means no material impediment can stop us from executing pure devotional service. If one is interested to engage in pure devotional service, no material impediment is there. Any question or comments?
Which is this Agastya Samhita and Lord Ramachandra, what is the relation? Agastya Samhita and Lord Ramachandra. It is mentioned that Vedic supplements, it is said that ritualistic principles are not required for a person duly engaged in the service of Lord Ramachandra.
What is the question? What is the question?
Like, okay, Lord Ramachandra or Krishna, both the same. I got it.
Isn't gender also an impediment? I mean, I'm not talking about pure souls like being Kunti. I'm talking about normally.
Your voice is very faint. Low in volume.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Isn't gender also an impediment in some way? I'm not talking about pure souls
Then
like.
gender is not an impediment in pure devotional service, but gender is impediment in other rules of scriptures and dharma. Therefore, when scriptures say, okay, person born in a woman body cannot study the Vedas, so that's an impediment, no? That's an impediment. So, in observing different aspects of dharma, gender does become an impediment. But in the case of pure devotional service, it does not. When you talk about mundane religion, or even you talk about liberation, then there are material factors which are important. Birth is an important factor, you know, your body is an important factor, your purity is an important factor. But when it comes to executing the dharma of the soul, which is Bhagavad Dharma, which is pure devotional service, the Vaishnava Dharma, then those factors are not an important factor. Then gender, caste, all that is not important. Because that is the identity of every soul, that every soul is a servant of Krishna. So pure devotional service basically means being situated in that identity. Now that identity is every soul's birthright. That soul might be temporarily in a different body or a different scenario, uh, but then that is the birthright of the soul. So
Agreed.
therefore, that is
I have
no
one
problem.
here. As a female gender, there are certain responsibilities and certain duties and certain things which may, um, it is written over here. We studied just now that even if you make some mistakes in your varnashrama, it does not matter if you're practicing pure devotional service. But then it's easy to write. But then when you are in a certain position, as a certain relationship, as a wife, as a mother, as a caregiver, as a homemaker, as a various other things, then sometimes those responsibilities weigh on you. When it comes to pure devotional service.
Yes, it may happen. It's not just that if you're in a female body, then that responsibility may come your way. You may be in a male body also, and then that responsibility may come your way. But then one who understands pure devotional service will eventually find out the way how to engage in the service of the Lord purely. So that person will find out the way. Krishna will help that person. So no one can say that someone who is genuinely engaged in pure devotional service will never say that there is an impediment in my execution of pure devotional service. Because someone who is engaged in pure devotional service, Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita 10.11 that I lighten up the lamp of knowledge in the heart of that personality and I remove the darkness, which means I remove the confusion. Right. So pure devotional service will not have impediments. The lesson is that. So if we are experiencing impediments in the discharge of pure devotional service, then there are only two reasons for that. One is we don't understand what pure devotional service is. Or second, we have not become expert in practicing pure devotional service. There is a difference in practicing pure devotional service, and second is contributing to the mission of preaching pure devotional service. Srila Prabhupada, he did not give up his Grihastha ashram to practice pure devotional service. Srila Prabhupada was uh, a pure devotee even while he was a Grihastha. Isn't it? Srila Prabhupada gave his Grihastha ashrama to propagate the mission of preaching pure devotions. He did not give up his Grihastha ashram to practice pure devotions. He was a pure devotee, even as a Grihastha. But for the propagation of preaching Krishna consciousness, he gave those duties, gave up those duties. Right. So if we if we really understand pure devotional service, and we have learned it very well how to do it under the guidance of pure devotees, we will not be discouraged by the circumstances we are in. And in all circumstances, we'll be able to practice pure devotions. We'll stop here. See you next week. Shubh